Okay, we're back. Welcome back, everybody. Sorry for the slight technical delay there. Just took a couple minutes longer to set up than we thought. We are back with Patrick Burke. He's going to, he has one of the better talk titles. I'm trying to give you my money. Hello. I love this talk title. I'm looking forward to the talk. Before we get into it, we just want to remind everybody, if you do have any questions for Patrick, please use the ID24 hashtag on Twitter, and we will make sure the questions get answered. We have the chats open on YouTube, but we are not monitoring them through TPG or ID24. We left them open only for the people watching the presentation to sort of follow along and chat amongst each other. So imagine yourselves like chatting in a movie theater or something like that, but less invasive. Leonie, did you have anything you wanted to add before we?
No, only just to say, don't forget to let us know where in the world you're listening from. It's great fun to see those tweets coming in. But otherwise, I think it's time to hand over to Patrick.
Okay, well, first of all, thanks to Leonie and Ian Pouncey for getting me through the technical setup marathon this morning, which it didn't help as much as we would think tonight, but now we're ready to go. Okay, so this is, as I said, I'm trying to give you my money. Hello, a survey of crowdfunding websites for good and bad user experience, and it can be. I have many alerts. Okay. All right, it's going to be kind of a, I don't know, I guess intermediate level talk. So I'm using the NVDA screen reader, but I'm not going to do too much background of NVDA. And using the Wave accessibility testing tool, and I'll say a few things about that, but not terribly much. And if you have questions about that, I'm happy to chat afterwards, or you can ask them in the presentation time. Hopefully, you'll have enough time. All right, let me find. Let me do my screen sharing and. Okay, here we are. So here we go with the software notes. And okay, so the most exciting news is this is part of a series of, we didn't plan it that way, but it's kind of, we have 3 talks kind of focused on user experiences and expectations and reactions. And so there's this one, as I was talking specifically about crowdfunding issues. Then wait all the way till 2000 for Joe O'Connor's pain talk. Also talking about how experiencing living with pain, and also what websites various designs do to increase pain. And then Stefan Judis from Berlin telling us about decrease your conversion. So things that lock out and turn off users. That please look forward to those. Stefan is at 2100, so those 2 right in a row. So I soon realized I'm covering 1/3 of the story, probably less, because I'm really focusing on desktop apps or desktop websites, and even within that, only to Windows. And I did a bit of experimenting. There's just a lot of variation with the same sites I was looking at. The mobile websites are radically different. Native apps are a whole other ballgame, and it's a bit of a conundrum because, as we know, accessibility on one platform doesn't necessarily guarantee it'll be accessible elsewhere. But based on me, I tend to do sort of half of a task with the mobile phone and the other half on the computer, and switching back and forth at different times. And so it would be nice to have accessibility to both. So anyway, then we also get different priorities and approaches within by the companies themselves. So the Youcaring organization website that I looked at, they have no iOS app at all. And the other three, only Gofundme seem to be have a significant presence. They have like 600 ratings and actually a good score on the Apple Store. The others are just like, I think Kickstarter had 1 rating or something. So it's like, it's an experiment they've kind of abandoned, or apparently, I don't know. Anyhow, so restricting this talk to just the Windows world. And it came to the idea of this presentation. First of all, I don't think I've used Gofundme previously, but I have used the others at different times, and actually noticed the experience getting worse, and it was kind of alarming. And also with all the terrible news over the summer, I felt like I wanted to do something to contribute to some of these disaster relief and different causes, and yet I found myself just getting more frustrated, and now I'm angry at the websites because they're just it's a hassle to deal with and energy draining, and so I try to figure out why that is. Also, back in July, I read this article called "Let Me Be Generous" by Megan Hoole up in Vancouver. And she has the very excellent "Where's Your Dog" blog discussing sort of the social encounters and reactions to herself as a blind person and other blind people. And it's very, very sort of amusing but incisive commentaries that she has. And so this one was about people just will not take money from a blind person, even if you're obviously fairly well off, and you're just you want to tip a cab driver or something. They don't want it. It's like I don't know. So, and then just recently, thanks to Joe O'Connor again for finding this one, The Guardian has the article, "No One Wants the Disabled Pound," and looking at the sort of reactions to wheelchair users and folks with other disabilities in the London fashion district, and just they're not willing to do what it takes to accept them into that environment. And so this all got me thinking and pondering this crowdfunding issue. So, and we often talk about the numbers of disability community and the buying power, if you add up, 1/6 of the world's population and so forth, that it appears that social factors, various those complex factors are going to block the mainstream world from accepting our economic participation. And so it seems to me it runs counter to the premise of crowdfunding. How do we know what the premise of crowdfunding is? We can, again, look at the Youcaring website, where they have a How It Works section, and it says, in just a few clicks, you can create, share, and collect support for your online fundraiser. So, like, well, it would be awesome if things worked that way. And so we're digging into how it does work and what could be the remedy. So again, sort of my theorizing, the crowdfunding occupies this place sort of in between the social media sphere and the real world, and you're trying to get people to move from just liking and retweeting stuff and sending Instagram photos around and get them to some kind of concrete action that affects the real world. And I mean, these sites are pretty effective at that. But the accessibility barriers, when they appear, can block us from that fun and useful task or activity. So, kind of the next section we have, these are kind of the things I'm not going to talk about. I'm going to talk about them for a while. And again, just when you're doing an accessibility test, the problems we always run into. And so we're starting out from the idea there's, I don't know where this quote comes from. It has not made it to WikiQuote yet, but heard in various jazz documentaries, nobody ever played bebop by mistake. Those guys had to plan out what they were going to do, theorize what their style of music was going to be. And seems to me things like carousels are sort of similar, that there's just no way, unless you deliberately plan, pay attention to accessibility, it's not going to happen. It's not going to be accessible. It's, I don't know, same deal with color contrast, although I guess that's a sort of design trend issue, that people love their light gray on slightly less light gray color schemes, and so that could change, but again, unless there's attention paid to it, it's not happening. So there's just these other things that always show up when you're using the wave tool, that they're just everywhere, and they almost become not interesting. Well, like, of course there are these errors on any website if there isn't an accessibility policy, and sometimes if there is an accessibility policy, it can still happen. So we have things like missing language declarations, form fields, missing labels, or labels not connected to the field. Although about 30% or so of them seem to make it through just randomly. There's a lot of alt text out there, but there's also a lot of missing alt text. There's plenty of read more links and other repetitive links that, again, in the sea of all the available links, they're just confusing, and you can't tell where they're pointing you to. And then the dreaded social meds buttons, all the Twitter and Facebook like buttons and all that stuff, sharing buttons. there are so many millions of them out there, and so many of them are terribly designed, and so that's a major difficulty. So all of these sorts of things occur on all the 4 sites that we're going to look at, and you know, again, it's, they're not that interesting unless you get a lot of them. I mean, each one in itself isn't a deal breaker. Maybe if you can kind of work around it, or you know, well, there's one unlabeled link, so I can just check, you know, see what the URL is, or just try it out and see what happens. But if there's 15 or 20, then you've got more problems. So various reasons for that, which I think I will move ahead on. Again, we have repeated blocks of information. So a lot of these, the social, the crowdfunding sites will have lists of projects, and all the projects will have you know, their own collections of buttons and links and forms involved in them. So if you have 16 of those blocks on a page, it really drives up the error numbers, makes it sound terrible, and it's actually not so bad. There's only a few you know, a few horrendous errors, but they happen over and over again. So let's see, we're not quite there yet. We had one more item, which is the amazing surprise that all 4 of these sites have there's videos all over the place, and they have video player widgets that are actually accessible. There's little sliders I can move back and forth with the screen reader, and things are good. And that one now, the percentage that are captioned, I'm not sure, but future research. All right, here we go. So I can never figure out quite what order to follow these in, but if you go alphabetically, it's Gofundme, Indiegogo, Kickstarter, and Youcaring. So I don't know, there's kind of the most complex, and one of the original sites was Kickstarter. So we're going to start there and look at the different approaches that they use and what they expect people to do, and how they sort of push users to one direction or another. So I'm trying to get a handle on this sort of idea that the Kickstarter is, again, they have all these tutorials and different things that, you know, coach you to, you know, create your video. So you're telling your story through the video. The others do different methods, which we'll find out in a second. And so a project on Kickstarter is not just signing up and plunking in your dollar amount and wait for the donations to roll in. You have to have your plan, your prizes, your rewards for different levels of support, and as I say, the video story, and your goals and stretch goals and all this stuff. So it sets kind of a high bar for the creators, but from the donor side, it also lets you know that, hey, these folks know what they're doing. They're you know, they're pretty well organized and so forth. And there's still some odd projects on there, but anyhow, and this start a project has a whole section of the site, and it's got the sketching tools and build your project tools and tutorials and stuff. So so they do support the account creators. And another thing we're tracking is they have different ways of, you know, oh, do they just let you, you know, sign up, create your account, and that's that? Or some of them do it differently. And Kickstarter has it separate. So there's an account, and then there's a start project section. We go down to Gofundme, and as the me indicates in the name, it's aimed at more individuals making personal connections. Their subtitle is make online donations to people you know. So quite different feel and approach than Kickstarter, where you're like, let's back a cool and interesting startup, or get some nifty comics down the line or something. And GoFundMe seems to me to have more of an emphasis on photos. Upload your photos, and that's the way you tell your story. Every page just has, within a project, there's all of a sudden buttons that say start a campaign. So they want you these calls to action to, like, okay, you've read about this cool thing. I bet you have 10 great ideas. Go for it. And they want everyone creating their own fundraisers. And their sign-up page, the best that I could figure out, actually combines. It's like, it's a start a fundraiser page, and if you just leave the fields blank and put in your email address and password, then you have your individual account. I don't know. I was trying to go through this time and see what the sites were like before sign up, or what the sign up pages are like. So I did not proceed that direction further. All right, and they have tons of like and share buttons. You're becoming a Facebook-like interface. So they're trying to get again, users on the site to have conversations back and forth, that sort of thing. Indiegogo, the third one, again, seemed to me to be very photo based, and as far as the how you get the message of your project across, and they seem to be focused on the startups and small businesses, but in a less complex way than Kickstarter. Okay, so then we go to Youcaring, because let's see, are we still? Yeah, okay, this is maybe too large of a slide. We'll see. Anyhow, Youcaring has again much more emphasis to, as far as I could figure, on the text. You can upload other things, but the main thing they want is your story written out. Why you're doing this project, and there's actually no sign up required for donation. They have no fees, although they ask for give us would you give us 10% on top of your pledge, or your contribution, that sort of thing. So it's creating a much more sort of low friction process for both the donors and the creators, and sort of low barrier to entry. And as a result of that, you have all sorts of projects, and again, just individual people requesting stuff. The interesting part was, of course, kind of shocking how many are medical needs, which may be a commentary on medical care in certain countries, which will go nameless. But maybe a search for accessibility on here, Youcaring, and you get a just massive number of people looking for funding to get a wheelchair van, or help with service animal expenses, or various. I mean, there's plenty of disabled folks on Youcaring. Some of the others, I should have added this as another category, but like I think it was Indiegogo, you type in accessibility and like, did you mean accessories? You know, we have keyless access systems. Maybe you'll like that. You know, so anyhow, so for whatever reason, Youcaring seems to be the leader in having actual accessible or having disabled people involved. Okay, now we return to the 4 sites again and talking about what I found with the Wave tool and just sort of specific accessibility things. So we have Kickstarter and the homepage. They're kind of in the pretty good lead. There are only 6 contrast errors. So that's a positive. And as I found out when I was trying to document some of their code items, they make a lot of very rapid changes. So one particular feature I was looking at changed twice since the end of October. So rapid development, but it was not improving accessibility. It was kind of bouncing back and forth, good and bad. They have a very interesting breakdown of categories. You have, of course, tons of subjects to choose from, but also you can go by things that are nearly funded or just starting. Or so if you have, you know, if you only have $20, but you want to do something, you can, you know, put that project over the top. That's you know, a day away from finishing. So so the browsing through the listings is pretty interesting, but the search I found to be kind of disastrous because it's really difficult to use, and they have no headings or tables or any kind of structure to the search results. So it became a real problem to navigate through. Also, so they have this very odd thing with so within the project, each project has, you know, its various reward levels and different prize packages you get for supporting them at different amounts. And there's a sort of a little payment widget form segment next to the headings that comprise the sort of the list of the rewards and explaining what they are. And those objects are not really connected. So if they have, say they have 2 or 3 $50, you know, different choices you could do with your $50 contribution, you end up with it's possible to be confused about well, which one am I actually, you know, I'm actually getting here. So if time remains, we'll have a look at that later on. All right. We're not there yet. Okay, Indiegogo is the next one. And they got a special prize because the branding image for the Indiegogo company is given the alt text of Indiegogo Logo. And usually we kind of frown on just calling something a logo. It's like you should say what the image, what its purpose is, or what its function is, what happens if I click on it, you know, that sort of thing. But I give them you know, let them slide on this one. That's too good. Indiegogo Logo. They have the carousel that cannot be stopped. It is unstoppable. And so just it took me a while to realize. Actually, I think I did the Wave report, and it was complaining about something, and I realized, oh, there's a carousel, and then I went back and found these, oh yeah, these little titles keep changing across the page, which I hadn't noticed before. So also there are on the home page 134 ARIA HTML5 items, and I'm not sure if those are good or bad, but they could be good. But perhaps it's time to take a ID24 flashback and check out the Burke presentation on ARIA 51, misuses of ARIA. All right, now I think we're ready for GoFundMe. All right, so GoFundMe has on the homepage, here's one of the ones that's sort of the accumulation of small difficulties that cause the problem. So you have many redundant links and form errors and empty links and 23 contrast errors. So that's not too fun. And then we have the project pages. However, they have these like and share buttons and comments you can leave, and all of those widgets have various problems. So the error counts are almost double for those pages. So that's not so great. Youcaring, sort of an interesting mixture of stuff. So there's one problem that fighting against the Wave tool. The Wave web interface uses these iframes to display pages, and Youcaring has scripts that do not like that, and so you can't do the Wave web tool for that. You need the Chrome extension. So I did that. However, the homepage has entire one Wave error, and that one is a little spacer with no alt text. It's like the smallest, silliest little accessibility error you could find. They're so close, but still an error. But there are one error, so that was the best of the other sites. They do have again, sort of a little bit like the GoFundMe problem. You start adding up the redundant links, and there's a Wave complaint about very small text, and so there's some things they're doing that are not useful. There are also two search boxes. I could not figure out the purpose of the one that's the alternate search box, and it seemed to do the same thing as the regular one. And then we have a peculiar help frame in the footer of the page that's always there for the screen reader, saying, "Did this article help you? Yes or no?" And I didn't even ask it anything, and that stuff is still there. So I assume it's intended to be hidden, but they didn't hide it from me. So another bonus prize for them is the search page, which has headings to mark the each search result. So it's very easy, very fast to skip through all the search options. So we move from there, and it is nearly time to pause for questions. So we got, basically you can reproduce any of my activities by looking through these pages and firing up the wave tool. I've got a couple of screenshots further down here. So I have one, this Assist Me project on Kickstarter, just to show the how this form field payment widget recurring problem works. And what was the other? I guess we got the Youcaring homepage, I think, to show the what looks like to have only one error. All right. So the future, there's a bunch of things that I had to kind of leave aside here, but I hope to continue and expand the investigation and add other services like Patreon and have a systematic, table of these results. Perhaps even contact the companies either with that information or otherwise, just see what they say, see what their attitudes to accessibility might be. And also there's a whole, since there are financial transactions involved here, there's a whole set of issues about security and privacy and financial fiduciary responsibility type things, to see if they again, they all have statements and Better Business Bureau approvals and that sort of thing, but you'd want a third-party investigation about that. So again, please, there's that one. So please get in touch with me, continue the discussion. Pat Twit on Twitter, Burke Adaptive Tech at Gmail is this email address, and we'll discuss some of these issues, and who knows, maybe start our fundraising campaign. So that is my story. Again, thanks to thanks to the captioners, and thanks to everybody at TPG.
And thanks to you also, Patrick.
All right. What is the question?
So some really some interesting kind of thoughts there in your talk. I'm curious that, as a blind person myself, this is kind of a ridiculous state of affairs, isn't it? When websites that are their specific intention, their purpose is to encourage people to donate, to contribute, are putting obstacles in the way. There's a kind of irony in that, really, isn't there, somewhere, I think?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
What for you is the kind of the silliest obstacle that you encountered of all the ones you spoke about?
I don't know. I spent like quality hours over the summer. There was a podcast I liked that they were doing an Indiegogo campaign, and I was like scouting around, like, okay, this is it. Oh, this sounds great. Oh, this sounds even better. Okay, where is the button to actually pay? And I could not find it. And again, that seems to have changed now, but I later discovered a button that says sign up to become a backer. So it did not say donate, it did not say pay, it did not say contribute or anything like that. And it's just, again, it's just aggravating. Like it's probably the large green button in the center of the screen that everyone would want to click, but evaded me.
Actually, Joe O'Connor actually mentioned something earlier during your talk, Pat, and he said, he mentioned, or you mentioned, the energy drain from interacting with some of these interfaces that are just problematic or don't play well with assistive technologies, and he sort of, I guess he'll talk on it more in his pain talk, that it's exactly the kind of troubles he has, because he has limited energy to begin with, and I don't think some of these sites realize the significant drain on energy they have with people, And for a site whose main purpose is to raise money, it's kind of a huge issue, right?
It feels. I mean, I feel silly. Like okay, I've been doing this adaptive technology thing for like 25 years, and yet it still took me half an hour to do this. A simple task that they claim it's 4 clicks and you're done. Well, sure didn't happen.
But we're not going to tell you which 4 clicks, and every time you click one wrong, you have to start over.
Yeah, maybe that's it. Yeah.
All right, that's great stuff. Well, we thank you very, very much for your time today, Patrick. That was very great. We would again like to thank all of our supporters. The Barclay, obviously Barclays and the Center for Inclusive Design. If you want to check our website in the sponsor section, there is more information on both of these supporters. Again, if you're a fan of ID24 and everything that's happening tonight, please subscribe to our channel so you can stay in touch with us and pick up all of the great content as we release it.
Absolutely, and this hour's JAWS license is going to go to the tweet that made us smile most, actually, of all the ones we've seen this evening. It goes to Joe O'Connor, actually, for tweeting in to say that he's currently listening from the People's Republic of Santa Monica. So, Joe, DM us your contact details, and we'll get that license information out to you soonest.
Yes, indeed. There's a very well-defended border between LA and Santa Monica. So.
Fantastic. All right, for everybody else that's still with us, please, we'll see you back here at the top of the hour for our next presentation. Again, thanks a lot, Patrick, and we'll talk to everybody soon.
Great. Thanks, everybody.
See you soon.